Are you ready?
Yes, I'm as ready as I'll ever be.
Okay. State your name to the camera.
Patricia Ann Schaffner,
All right, life events, childhood. What year were you born?
1933. 1933.
On what date?
April 9th, 1933.
Do you know what day of the week it was?
No, I don't.
Did your parents tell you anything about the day you were born?
Other than the fact that my mother was had been released from the hospital and was sent to her aunt's in Salem. She had an aunt who lived in Salem, and my dad and Grandma Mills drove to Salem to pick her up. She went into labor, and they took her back to the hospital, and I was born at the State Mental Hospital.
Were you giving the first and middle names that you have?
I have no idea when it was done. I assume it was. I don't know.
What's your first most vivid memory? It's a tough one.
I have no idea.
Guess.
I really don't know. I have no idea.
What was the apartment or house like that you grew up in? How many bedrooms did it have, bathrooms? What was your bedroom like?
Our house was a cabin. It was it was three rooms without the ceiling going clear through to the ceiling. It was just
So
three
kind
separate.
of one big room with the
one
dividers?
big room with dividers.
Oh,
yes.
interesting.
It was heated with a wooden stove.
How many bathrooms?
None.
One outside?
One outside.
What was your bedroom like?
It was one large room with two beds in it. One full size, and I think they were both full size beds.
Can you describe the neighborhood you grew up in?
There was no neighborhood. It was the back of a farm.
Tell me about your parents. Where were they born? When were they born? What memories do you have of them?
My father was born in 1910. My mother was born in 1908. My dad was born in Portland. My mom was born in Roy, Oregon, which is the town past North Plains, towards the coast. My mother was one of 16 children. My dad was one of 5. My dad had 1 sister and 3 brothers. 3? That's not right. Leroy, Pete, must have been only kids. There was Grandpa. Okay, there was Pete, and then Winnie, and then who's the next one? Dad, and then Roy. There was only 4 boys. Only 3 boys and 1 girl. Dad was wrong on that.
Who was more strict, your mother or your father? Do you have a vivid memory of something you did that you were disciplined for? That you can tell us?
I remember the most vivid thing I remember is my dad giving my brother a spanking for smoking. And Mary Lou and I were up, every time Dad would take Jerry out for any kind of discipline, we'd go up on the roof on the house, and we'd sit on the roof and watch. and he got paddled for smoking. I remember that.
So you never got in trouble for anything? You never caught you on the roof?
I'm sure that I got in trouble for small things, but I don't remember any. Dad wasn't that much of a disciplinarian, no. When he said something, he meant it.
Did your parents have a good marriage?
Very good.
How did your family earn money? How did your family compare to others in the neighborhood? Richer, poorer, the same?
My father and mother were very much like the neighbors. Everybody was pretty well the same in our neighborhood. My dad worked in construction once we got older, moved to Portland. Until we moved to Portland, Dad really didn't do much work at home because he either worked in the woods or usually out in the country he works in the woods. But
was he falling timber or working on machines?
He was falling timber, yeah. And the first one of the cutest things that I've always heard about was Jerry. He was our older brother. He was the oldest of the family, and he would play outside in the wood, with the woods and stuff, with probably the wood for the fire. Anyway, he had a stick, and he sawed on the log with a stick. He was sawing. And they would tell about that with Jerry and his saw. But Dad, when he'd come home from work, he would come in on his hands and knees because he had his spikes on for logging. And he'd come in on his hands and knees, and us kids would all pile on him. It was pile up time on Dad. And Dad was a great one for doing that. That's the way he always come home from work.
What kinds of things did your family spend money on?
Our folks went to on Saturday night there was a Grange dance in Hillsboro. We'd take the car, go into town, and Dad would drop us kids off at the movies, and we'd go to the movies, and they would go and to the dance. It was a block from the theater, and then we would walk over when the show was over. We'd go down to the dance hall, and usually us kids went to sleep on they always had benches around the dance hall, and we'd sleep on the bench, or we'd dance. We'd dance with Dad. He was great for dancing with us girls, and I went to all the movies. That was their babysitter. And it cost, 10 cents to go to a movie? It was about 10 cents for it. And the Venetian had second-rate movies. The Hill had first-rate movies. They only showed one movie. I saw Gone with the Wind when it came out, when it first came out.
Mm-hmm.
I saw all the big movies. We saw them at the Hill. They had top grade movies there. And when we moved to Cascade Locks, us kids would pick up cans, and they had deposit on cans back then. We would for some reason, they threw cans out of the trains. I don't understand why, but they did back then. And us kids used to pick up the cans and pay for our way to the show. That's how we went to the show every week. Because it cost maybe 15, 20 cents to go to a movie. And we'd go, and we went to all it. Poor Paul, he never saw any movies. He never saw any movies, and I saw them all.
How many?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No.
Okay. How many brothers and sisters do you have? When were they born? What memories do you have of each of them from growing up?
That's a lot. That's a big question.
There's 3 of us children who are all within 6 years. Mary Lou, Jerry, Lou, and I. And then there was 7 years before Mother had another baby. And then there was 7 years before Mom had another baby.
Wow.
Because Mother was very sick when she had me. It's a wonder I ever lived. Because I was, and then when I was 4, I guess I got real sick, and Grandma, they took me into the hospital in Hillsboro, and they told them to take me home, just keep me, I would die. Grandma didn't let me die.
What did they think was wrong?
I don't know. It had some type of a flu or something. I don't know what they had, what it was.
Huh.
But anyway, they told Grandma I was going to die. So Grandma brought me home, and she saved me.
She made sure you didn't die.
Yep, she made sure I didn't die, and boy did I know it. and I think the reason it did not affect me very well, because anyway, I drew my ears up hearing my grandmother say, "You are Jerry is Mama's boy, Mary Lou is Daddy's girl, you're our girl." I've heard that all my life, and that's what
Oh, your mama didn't let you die.
So, well, see, Grandma saved me twice, because when I was born, Grandma took care of me because Mom really didn't really hardly remember having me.
Yeah,
Because-
she could have said that differently, right? Like she could have said, "You're my favorite."
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, she could have, but
Yeah.
she didn't. But I heard that, but it got brought to my attention all the time.
Mm.
So this was just something I always lived with. I was second rate to Mary Lou.
So did you were talking about Jerry sawing on the log. Do you have memories from your other brothers and sisters?
Um,
What's your most vivid memory of each one of them?
Lou and I were really close when we were kids. I mean, as far as we did everything together because there was nobody else to do anything with. There was just the two of us. And well, of course, Jerry, but he was a boy. So, he was really indifferent. He was usually giving us a bad time about something. Like, I'll never forget the time we lost all our stuff in the flood, the mighty flood.
That's right.
The flood, the gully washed out, and it washed. Our playhouse was down there by the
The creek.
where the creek was, it was just a it wasn't a creek.
It was a drainage ditch?
A ditch.
Yeah.
And the water came that when it rained real hard, it would come down through there, and it would wash clear down into Grandma and Grandpa's pasture. We dug up our toys in Grandma and Grandpa's pasture for years down here. Anyway, we put everything into boxes. The only thing we brought back were our dolls, and we brought our dolls up into the house, and everything else got flooded. So Jerry thought that was real funny.
What memory do you have of Faye or Larry?
Faye, I spoiled Faye. He was really the one I spoiled because he was the closest to my age, and he was only 7 years younger than me.
Mm.
And so
Is
and
Larry the
I
youngest?
was home.
So Larry's the youngest?
Larry's youngest, yeah. And Larry is 18 years to the day younger than Jerry.
To the day?
He was born on the same day Jerry was.
Oh my gosh.
18 years. Well, we thought that was quite unique. Anyway, Larry was very spoiled.
I think the youngest child are very spoiled.
That's the way it's supposed to be.
Yep, that's what my mother said.
They're all almost as bad as only children.
I knew that was coming.
Anyway, when I was, I was only 12 when Larry was 12 when I got married,
Wow.
and so Paul would take him fishing with him and everything, because Mom had the stroke that year.
The year that you got married, she had the stroke?
Mm-hmm. If I hadn't have gotten married, if I hadn't met Paul, I probably never would have ever married. Because I probably would have moved back and took care of Dad and the family.
Yeah.
And did the cooking and everything.
And I wouldn't be here.
Huh?
And I wouldn't be here.
You wouldn't be here, kid. Nope.
All right, now we're getting a little more difficult questions.
Okay.
Well, the easy one is, did you have grandparents?
Oh, yes. I had both parents and grandparents.
Where were they born?
My grandmother was born in Vancouver. My dad's mother. His father was born in South Dakota at the state prison because his dad was an assistant warden at the state prison in South Dakota. The reason we know that is because Grandpa had a little table made by a prisoner that he gave his dad's dad, and that anyway, Grandpa got it, and it went to my dad, and I'm pretty darn sure that Larry has it, but anyway.
Yeah, I was gonna see what happened to it. You think Larry got it?
I would think that Larry probably got it, because I don't think Jerry did. I don't think Jerry was that interested. I think Larry was. I think Jerry had Grandpa had the belt for the lines to go for a six horse stagecoach. They had special belts where the lines went through, and I think Larry has that. But anyway, my grandfather homesteaded, Grandpa Mills homesteaded in Eastern Oregon. Then he came back and lived, there's a yellow, used to be yellow, I don't know what color it is now. There's a house on Willamette Avenue where Grandma and Grandpa lived when Grandpa got his arm cut in the sawmill. He got tripped by a guy that was sweeping, tripped him into the saw. And it cut his arm, and he never could bring it down. It was cut, and he only had 3 fingers, I think, on that hand. He lost 2 or 3. I don't remember now how many. I think 2, but I'm not sure. He could have had 3 or 4.
This is your father's father?
Yeah, Grandpa. He used to live with Grandma and Grandpa, you know.
I only remember going up to a home or something and seeing him there.
Yeah.
That's the one.
We did.
That's the one I thought was the bank robber.
That was the
Or
one.
no, he robbed stagecoaches.
Oh, Rob said no. He drove
Yes,
stage.
I found that out later in life. It's not as exciting, but
That's how the history gets all messed
Anyway.
up.
and that was Grandpa. So Grandma's parents. What do you know of them?
Okay. All they had was kids. They had, well, you know where they lived.
You were telling me they were the ones that lived in Vancouver?
They were the ones that lived out on the highway, by the tree that's in the middle of the.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was
okay.
wondering, like, where, I thought
How-
we drive by that tree and that had some family.
Highway
Yeah.
26, so
Yeah.
right before you turn to go to
Banks,
Thanks.
Banks.
Mhm.
right?
Okay.
Why that
So that's your
weighing
mom's side.
station out in the middle of that road field is where my mother grew up. They had a 2-story house there. She was one of 16 kids.
I was 16.
Oh my gosh.
Somebody had to work the farm.
One set twins, they were boys. Only one lived. That's the only, and then
So 17 kids or 16?
13 kids lived to adulthood. But they had 16.
Was it
17 versus 16 kids.
truly like Kurt said, like because you're working the farm and you need all the
No.
or is it because that's their religious
That was their
belief?
religious belief.
Yeah.
They were Dutch from Holland. And all of them out there. The funny part about it is, Dad, our Paul, knew more of my second cousins than I did. Because Elsie married a Hermans who was from Verboort. They're part of the Dutch that lived out,
Wow.
settled out there. And Paul worked every summer with all these relatives of mine
Small world.
out there.
Wow.
Anyway,
When did your grandparents die?
oh dear, honey.
Well, they all lived to adulthood. They all lived
Grandma
to...
and Grandpa Mills lived. Grandma was killed in a wreck. Grandpa drove up in front of a truck up in Pasco. They were at Leroy's canning, and they canned apricots. They were on their way home, had gone to Mass, was on their way home. Grandpa pulled out in front of a truck and hit him. And Grandma died from that wreck. But they had left early because Grandma had come down jaundice. She just turned yellow, I guess. And when they checked her out, she was just full of cancer.
Mm.
My grandmother said a rosary every day of my remembering of the I'd say since I was a teenager. I know this for a fact since I was a teenager. Every day she said a rosary that she would not die of cancer.
Mm.
And the reason being is because her sister-in-law died of cancer and she had a miserable death.
Mm.
And she
So
always prayed.
technically, she didn't die of cancer.
And she did not die of cancer. She never suffered a bit.
Wow.
The fickle God.
Yeah.
Well, her prayer was answered.
Your prayers were very much answered.
All right. On a lighter note, did you have any pets?
Did I have it?
That's a weird segue right there. That is not a good
I think that's what they were thinking too. We're getting real dark here. Did you have a puppy?
Yes, and his name was Spotty.
Spotty?
And he died. Kenny had to eventually put him to sleep because he was way up in years. And he got sick in the house and was bleeding. And we thought it was Mom, and it was the dog. And anyway, Spot he had to be put to sleep. Back in those days, we put him to sleep.
Yeah. You didn't spend thousands and thousands of dollars on him?
No.
No.
We took him out and shot him and buried him.
5 cents for a bullet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a much better name than my mom's dog. My mom's dog's name was Nigger.
No! You're kidding. What possessed him to call him nigger?
I don't know. So, you know, like I grew up like hearing that story and it never, like, I never thought to like ask. And then as an adult, I don't know. Like now I don't know. Like, right? I never asked my mom. Like, it was just a family story about her, you know, her dog. And yeah, I mean, like now it's like, gosh, I wish I could have asked, like, why did you name your dog that?
I don't think it would have been a happy answer.
It could have been. It could have been black.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, yeah, but that's that's not a happy answer.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so what were you like as a child? What did you like to eat? What did you do for fun?
I swam. I loved to swim.
Don't do.
I really spent. The kids couldn't be by water. That they weren't in the water.
why did you build a swimming pool here?
They were
Because
that
my
close.
husband wouldn't do it.
They were that close.
Man,
They got Lake
I
Merwin
love
instead.
swimming pools.
Don't think I didn't try.
Yeah, I can see why. You
I did everything I could. I mean, you know, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
I mean, they gotta go. They gotta go along with it, especially
I know.
that.
We still don't, you know, something I love. We don't have it either, so.
didn't.
Well,
We got you a pool.
anyway, that's why we don't have the pool, because I couldn't get Dad talked into it. I tried.
You had Lake Merwin.
Yeah, well, we had Lake Merwin, then we got, you know, I don't know. But anyway,
So what did you like to eat?
what I like to eat.
As a kid?
Chinese food. I love Chinese food. And,
Back when you were young?
hmm,
When you were young, you guys got Chinese food?
once we moved to Portland, we had everything everybody else had. And I was 10 years old when we moved to Portland.
Oh.
So, you know, I was still up, I was pretty young yet.
What was your favorite toys or games?
I played ball. I played softball. Lou and I both played softball. We won seemed like we won a championship, but I'm not sure on that.
Was that Roosevelt?
No, at grade school.
Grade school?
That would have been CIO, you know.
CYO, yeah, Catholic Youth.
Yeah.
Did you ever have a secret place or a favorite hiding spot?
Oh, I had several. There was a when I was 10 when we were in Cascade Locks. I was 10 years old, and there was this big vacant warehouse. We lived on a cul-de-sac. The highway went by here, the grade school was up here, and we were down here between the river and the railroad and the highways here and the railroad and the river. And we lived on this big, it's quite a large cul-de-sac, one in a circle. And in the middle of it, there was this, I remember they were right by Armstrong's, and it was closed up. Of course, there was a loose board, and us kids used to sneak in it all the time. We hid in there all the time. And they had a register in there, a cash register. We kept all our valuables in the cash register.
Of course you did.
So that was kind of a fun thing. That Cascade Locks, I had more fun in Cascade Locks. It was just a great. We lived on this cul-de-sac. Okay, it was quite a big one. We lived about here, and at this end of it, before it came back up on the hill, there was a dock. That's where the Coast Guard was docked.
Mm.
They had a PT boat stationed there,
Oh, wow.
and it was stationed there all the time. So we would go down and swim off
Off their dock.
their dock. And we wouldn't get on the boat except when the captain was, when the captain was usually gone. So all of us would, we'd swim off the boat all the time. I remember one time I jumped in and cut the heck out of my foot. And of course the sailors, they got me in there and treated, fixed it up and everything. And of course I thought that was great. That was great. I thought that was wonderful.
I like Cascade Locks.
And so we had lots of fun there. Plus the fact, the interesting thing about Cascade Locks was all these hills behind it, and there was all kinds of lakes up there, and that I didn't get to all of them. I saw a few, but Jerry would go up, and the guys, Jerry and some of the other boys, they went up and ice skated up there.
Oh.
In the wintertime, because it was cold and it froze good. So they were up there ice skating. I never got up there when it was icy, but I know there was ice skating. And then Jerry had a paper route, went up as far as, I don't know how far it went. It would go up, I don't know how far it went. I don't know if you remember there was a what they used to call the CCD, what did they call CCDs?
Are you talking about the federal?
Yeah, the workers.
Yeah, I think it's CCC.
CCC, yeah,
Yeah.
I think. Anyway, they had a camp up there on the highway, but I don't remember how far up it was. But anyway, I remember that the last place that Jerry went was I remember it had, at one time, they had where you could buy peanuts for 10 cents. And you could get a quarter in them. They would have a prize in them once in a while. I remember that.
I'd get you to buy I'm gonna get the quarter this time.
Yep. So anyway, I remember that. But there was also another place up there which was really interesting. It had been a very expensive home. It was probably within a half mile of our house. And it was right on the main road. But it had a huge, whoever owned it. And I our neighbors from Mom and Dad on Schofield, kind of corner across from us, there was a family, and she had grown up there as the girl of the house. Her family had owned that place. It had a huge orchard, and us kids used to walk up there, and they didn't do anything with the stuff. You know, they just ripened
You just left it?
and we'd go up there and you know, scrounge around. And we'd scrounge up they had almonds and all kinds of more exotic type fruit, nuts, and all different kinds of stuff. That it was really interesting. But anyway, years later, I met her, and small world. But anyway, when we were kids. But I went up a couple times with Jerry, and borrowed a bike, and because us girls never had bikes, and I borrowed a bike, and I must have borrowed a bike.
So was that a thing? Boys had bikes and girls didn't?
No, I think maybe Mary Lou and I had a bike between the two of us, maybe. It was an expensive thing for, we just didn't have that kind of money. Jerry always had he always had something he was doing. He had always had a route, paper route or something. And I don't know. Anyway.
What kind of clothes did you wear?
Clothes? We wore, the boys wore, I remember Lord Jeffs. You probably don't remember. Lord Jeffs were very nice sweaters, and they were V-necks, and we wore those. Us girls, we wore cashmeres. The big thing in our time when we went to school was to have cashmere sweaters. You had a
Were they that expensive then as they are now?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I don't know how they are now, but back then they were $40 or $40 or $50 a piece.
Yeah.
Mary Lou and I and Pauline, Chuck's sister, who was our girlfriend, we all exchanged. all of us. And so we'd wear the same sweaters, only at different times, of course. But cashmere sweaters, that was the big thing. Oh, and Armour shoes.
Those the black and white.
Well, they were brown and white at that time.
Brown and white.
Mm-hmm. Armour shoes. And we would have a new pair of Armour every year, and the reason being is because after we would wear them a year, we'd wear them in the berry field.
Oh. Yeah.
So they wouldn't last more than one berry field.
And when you were in the berry field, was that for you or for the family?
That was for me.
Good. How else did you afford that sweater?
That's
Did
right.
You had to buy your own sweaters.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so here's
you gotta realize that when I was 12 years old was the first year that I stayed and Lou stayed, and Georgiana stayed out at the farm and batched. You know what batching was?
I don't know what that is.
Batching is taking care of your own food. We batched. We had a charge account at the grocery store. And we'd go in, we would go in with Leroy if we needed to go to the shopping, and we'd go in either with Phyllis or Leroy and do our shopping when they went and took the berries in, and then we'd come home with them. We just, stop, grab what we needed, and come right away. But we would go with them, and that way we always got to the store. But the first year, I believe that the first year that we stayed in the chicken coop, in one of the chicken coops. One of the years we used a Booter house. One of the years we used a tent. One of the years we used, Grandma and Grandpa's had a back room that Leroy was going to make into this is in their old house, it was going to make into a bathroom, and it never got, other than just boxed in, didn't get made. So
How many people fit in this little bathroom?
well, the three of us would eat there. We slept upstairs.
Oh, okay.
We just ate there. We just cooked something to eat and eat there. But we slept upstairs. That's where we stayed, was upstairs.
So you guys took turns cooking? Or everybody cooked together?
We just did it together. It seemed like.
It was a survival thing.
It was really basic, let me tell you. It was a treat every weekend. Mom and Dad seemed to manage to get out to see us. They usually came and Mom would bring dinner.
Aw.
So it was, but we did that from, like I said, when I was 12 was the first time, and Mary Lou was 13, and Georgiana she was between Lou and I. She was between Lou and I, but 2 years ahead of us in school.
Oh.
How did that happen?
She went to
She
college.
lived in a big house? No, that's different.
She went to college when she was, I think she probably was 16.
Was it
Could have been
based on
15.
just like they let her speed up school, or how did she skip grades?
Well, I don't know. She just finished high school early and got a scholarship. She was a brain. Very little common sense. But
I know.
a real brain. Oh, jeez.
Okay. My
My clothes got double wear because she wore the same size I did. And she had very, very little clothes, and what clothes she had wasn't anything to scream about. Her mother was not, my mother was a seamstress. Mom was a wonderful seamstress. She made all my clothes. She made all my clothes until I got married.
Oh wow.
Well, until she had a stroke.
Yeah.
She always made my clothes.
Was that like typical for most households at that time? Did people just sew their own clothes?
I would say probably yes and no. Probably about 50%, maybe 50%. Mother was a real seamstress. She was a beautiful seamstress.
It would probably be less expensive to make clothes than to
Well,
buy them back then.
The problem is my size. I wore probably an 18, and I was a little bit bigger than I am now, I think. I weighed more. I know that by about 20 pounds. But anyway,
When you were young, did you get an allowance? How much did you get? Did you spend it right away or save it?
you know, we never really did get an allowance because I'll tell you why.
You got
Because we made money.
I was
We
gonna-
always made
I was gonna say
money.
you got a nickel. So that was your nickel that you went to the movies with, or did Grandpa or did your dad give you a nickel to go to the movies?
That was our nickel. That was our money we spent.
So you would have just sat on the bench all night long if you didn't have money to go to the movies.
If I didn't go to the movies, I just didn't go to the movies.
Yeah.
But we started babysitting as soon as we moved to Portland. Probably, I'm sure I babysat by the time I was 12. And we always had babysitting jobs. Mary and I always did. We both worked at the, well, she didn't work in the movies. I worked at the movies. I think probably was, how old was I when I worked at the movies? I must have been
What movie theater? The one in Kenton?
Kenton. I met more darn girls than I had as clients at the Kenton Theater. I've had girls hook for me that I've hooked with. That one of the gals remembers going to the Kenton Theater to the movies because we always had what they call them, matinees. Yeah, we always had matinees, and we had to work the matinees, and But I used to work pretty late. I'd work until probably around 12 o'clock because after we would close the stand, then I'd stay there and watch the movie.
Oh, you watched the movie.
While the guy that owned the place, he went to the Kenton Club. So he'd go down to the Kenton Club until closing time, then he'd come back, and in between that time, the cop that had the beat, he'd come and sit with me and watch the movie.
Wow.
What kind of school did you go to? Were you a good student? What was your favorite subject?
I went to a Catholic school. Well, public school until we moved to Portland. Catholic school as soon as we moved to Portland. Catholic school until high school. High school, I went to public school, to Roosevelt. And then, that's it.
Do you think you were a good student?
I was a hell of a good student. I was on the honor roll. I got a job to work. I never ever did look for a job.
So there is no excuse for your youngest son.
Huh? There's no excuse for what?
For your youngest son.
Oh, no, none at all.
Okay. What was your favorite subject?
Math,
Math was your favorite subject?
absolutely.
Didn't think you were going to say that. And your least favorite subject?
English.
See, that would have said the opposite.
Spelling.
Because spelling, but you get to read in English.
You don't. That's what the problem is. You don't get to read that much in English.
Yeah, you really don't.
Mm-mm.
That has, well, my one bad story about school, I call it my bad story, because when I was a junior, in our English, she decided that we should read 3 stories per grading period. and I read Les Miserables, Three Musketeers, and one other one. I don't remember which one it was. And well, it just happened that year I was living away from home and was taking care of a family of kids, 3 kids, and living with this family. He was a railroad engineer, and he was off, I think, maybe on 3 off, or you know how they do. Anyway, the wife didn't like being by herself, so they called Mary Lou to see if she would do it, and she wasn't interested at all, and I talked to him, and so I did it. And I lived with them for a year.
Wow.
And I loved it because I had a whole room to myself. I never had a room to myself in my life. I in my own bed, I didn't sleep with them. And so, anyway, I read it, and where I got off to go home on the bus, I would take the bus that drove on Portland Boulevard, and I would get off at Jeff, at their library there, and go to the library, and they had the best collection, a classical collection, the biggest collection of Dumas that you ever saw. They had a huge collection of Dumas. Anyway, I thoroughly enjoyed it. But, you know what my teacher told me? She says, you don't have to read 3, 1 is fine. She made me so mad. Instead of saying anything good about it, telling me I didn't need to do that because of what I was reading, and telling me that you didn't have to read 3. Missy, I have never forgiven her for that. I thought that was the worst thing she could have possibly have told me. As far as I was concerned, she was worthless.
Yeah.
Because she wasn't encouraging me.
Yeah, she should be empowering you to take that passion and take it as far as you can go.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, she empowered me to do nothing. Oh, I was and I never forgot it. I just, as far as I was concerned, you could take Roosevelt.
On a brighter note, who was your favorite teacher and why?
My favorite teacher was the girls' dean at Roosevelt. And the reason being is because when I'd have a migraine, I'd walk out of my room into her office, and she'd walk out of her office and give me her office until I got over my migraine. Mm-hmm. Because for that year, I had an awful lot of trouble with migraines. And I don't know how many times Jerry had to come get me in the car and take me home because I was sick of my dog. And so.
None of that was any fun for anyone.
And everybody else thought she was so ornery, and she was such a good person. I mean, she'd just walk off and go.
That's so nice.
Let me sit there until I either got taken care of or they just had, because usually, you know how the nurse's room is usually somebody's in there.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Did you have any heroes or role models when you were a child?
I think Well, one of the people that I really, really thought a lot about was Sister Eusebia. She retired the year I would have been 10. I was 10 that year. She retired. That was she taught me the 5th grade, and then she retired the next year. And she was just a really, really sweet person.
Sister Eusebia? Oh.
Not Sister Eusebia.
I was gonna say.
Sister Seraphica.
Oh, that's, yeah.
Yeah, Sister Eusebia used to be Grandpa's friend. Yeah. No, wrong nun. No, Sister Seraphica. That's what her name was. Anyway, she was Dominican. Anyway, I really liked her. I like the Dominican nuns very much.
How did you spend your summer holidays? What were your favorite summer activities?
At Columbia Park, swimming every day. If I wasn't working out the farm, which was not all that often.
When you had a chance.
It wasn't covered then, was it?
Give me a 7-Up.
No, it
It was
wasn't.
an outdoor pool then, right?
Yeah.
Would you like something else to drink? There's also water and 7-Up and Coke. Another little
Just
shot.
give me some of that.
All right.
Anyway, otherwise I was working out the farm. You know, and we were working not only on strawberries. I mean, we had everything they had there.
Mhm.
He put in beans. My favorite was pickles, sweet pickles, cucumbers.
Cucumbers?
Cucumbers were a great thing, but
They're a
you
little
gotta.
prickly, they stick you in
Nah,
your fingers.
nah.
I got wimpy fingers.
You gotta realize that when we finished strawberries, we went right into planting. We planted cauliflower, we planted broccoli, and we planted cucumbers, and we planted. We had this Oakey family, Effie and her husband, and she was a lot of fun actually. She and I, we were the two behind the planter. The planter was a big tub, a big cylinder full of water, and then it would come down and it had a V where you stuck the plant, and you had a chair here and a chair here. We sat on it down here behind it, and then with a carrier with plants in it, wet, on your lap, and you stuck them down in the pool. That's how you plant plants.
Plant a lot of plants.
You plant a lot of plants. Let me tell you. I remember one time, Marilu, some guy come out to see Marilu. Somebody, Leroy knew, and he was in the service, and he came out to meet Marilu, and Marilu was out changing irrigation pipe. It was funny.
All right. Where did your family go on vacations?
Vacations?
What's that?
What was fun? We came to Portland on vacation. Probably the only place we'd ever go would have been the coast. We would have probably gone fishing. Dad would have. As far as vacation goes, we didn't. You gotta figure we had Lake Merwin, so we spent a lot of time. Missy, were you ever at Lake Merwin? No. It was we had a lot of good times there.
I can't remember how old I was when you sold Lake Merwin. I was probably still in grade school,
Oh yeah, I'm sure you were.
so I don't think Missy was there.
I've never been to Lake Merwin ever.
How did your family celebrate holidays? And did lots of relatives get together? What traditions did you have year after year?
Well, we always got together on holidays. And Grandma and Grandpa Mills, we always got together with the Shockners and Millses.
Did you take turns?
I think we did it at different times. I mean, as far
Earlier at Grandma Shockner and later at the Mills.
Pardon?
Earlier at Shockner's and later at the Mills.
I don't remember.
But when you were growing up, did you have a lot of relatives come to visit during holidays and do Christmas?
Not holidays. Really, they didn't come visiting during holidays. That's when you were home on holidays. My dad was a great one for either having somebody for dinner or going someplace on Sunday. One or the other. It was one or the other. And he would have plenty of dinners himself. And then on holidays, once Mother had the stroke, which was the year I got married, then we always had 10 at the table here because we'd have our 6, Mom and Dad Mills, and we'd have more than that because we'd have Grandpa Mills too, and we'd have Grandpa, and then we'd have Mom and Dad Shockner.
Mm-hmm.
So we would have,
So you ended up being the house that people came to.
most of the time, as far as my immediate family went. Yeah.
Here's an interesting one. What was the best gift you remember receiving as a child?
As a child?
As a child?
I don't know. Well, when we were little, Mary Lou and I both liked our dolls.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
Really and truly, when I got in high school, I figured I'd work in accounting. I figured I'd do a bookkeeping type.
So what you did?
Yeah. But I always had.
But so I'm curious because you grew up like in a farming, like,
No.
so
Not
that was
really.
like.
We did and we didn't. All summer we were in the farming,
Mhm.
but all winter we were in Portland.
So the farming just wasn't something that you were like. You didn't think, oh, I want to live on a farm. And,
No, because because of the fact that I really grew up in Portland. You know, I was on the bus and I was.
Yeah. Well, I was just curious because you have both those experiences,
I
right?
had
And
both.
you like the city and the.
I had both. I knew what both was like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
What big world events do you remember from the time you were growing up?
World events. I remember the war.
It was World War II was in 42, and you were born in what year?
I was born in 33, so I was.
So 9
9
years
years
old when
old.
it started, so 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. So the war was still going on when you were 12, just shutting down.
Yeah. And what other big events?
Mm-hmm.
Did the war feel like it was far away, or did you?
No, it really didn't, because I think probably because we were right there by a boat all the time. And sure, it wasn't a big boat, but it was a service boat.
Yeah.
I mean, it was an active boat,
Yeah.
and then Dad worked at the dam at Bonneville, and Leroy was in service. Leroy went into service, so. And he was as close as anybody could be to me because, you know, we spent every summer with him for our whole lives, you know. So it's not, Leroy and Phyllis were very close to Mary Lou and I, and Jerry.
Do you remember any floods? Any floods?
Oh, well, I was there when Vanport went.
That's what I was wondering. Where were you in Vanport?
I really wasn't there. I was on the bus coming from Vernonia to Portland. I had been up to Birkenfeld to visit Georgiana and my cousin, Pete's girl, oldest, and I was on the bus. Mary Lou was sitting down on the sidewalk in Kenton, and they were coming right up through Kenton. The people. I mean, we were only 2 blocks from Kenton.
Yeah.
Mom and Dad's.
I mean, you were right by being important.
My mom remembered they went up on the roof so they could watch what was going on and see what was going on.
And probably the roof of your mom's house or your grandma's house?
Yeah, our old house.
Our old house.
How far were you from Swiberg's? You don't know? You didn't know Swiberg's?
I know the name, I just don't.
Oh. Huh.
Interesting. What inventions do you most remember?
Inventions?
You're talking about the radio, the TV, the microwave.
Oh, yeah. Well. Inventions. Probably. I remember when we got electricity.
That was pretty cool. Indoor plumbing, that's pretty cool.
Those are important
I
things.
guess they're not really inventions, but they were big.
Yeah, I got indoor plumbing.
What's different about growing up today from when you were growing
Oh,
up?
jeez.
Everything.
Yeah, everything. That's for sure. Oh, I don't know.
I think communication would be a huge one.
Yeah, I
And,
think
mean,
so.
you could call somebody or at least leave a message at their house, and as long as both you were at your houses at the same time, you could talk to them. Nowadays, everybody can talk to anybody every time, any time of the day, all the time.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean a heck of a lot to them.
Mm-mm.
That's the sad part about it.
When you were a teenager, what did you do for fun? I thought we already talked about that one. Did you have a favorite spot to hang out? What time did you have to be home at night? Did you ever get in any trouble?
Oh, there's a good one.
I don't think I've ever was caught.
Then you didn't get in trouble.
Didn't get in trouble.
And I mean, let's see. So your favorite spot to hang out was the pool.
Oh yeah.
What did you do for fun? You went swimming.
Did you swim like in local
No.
rivers or?
Oh well, yeah. The fact is, when I got my job at the hospital, I had come in with one of the boys that was, by that time they were old enough to drive. And I came in with him. We were going to go swimming at, I don't,
Oh, it's the one that Nick probably worked at. What's the one over by Emmanuel?
Matt Dishman?
where?
Matt Dishman. It's like 2 blocks away from Emmanuel. But Emmanuel has a swimming pool. Did it have a swimming pool when you were there? Did you go swimming there?
I did a little bit, not a lot. It just wasn't, didn't work out, it just wasn't that easy. When you don't drive, you gotta have somebody else to where, it's
Yeah.
just not that easy to do things like that. But,
That was the other question I had. So you took a bus from Birkenfield. They had a bus going through Birkenfield?
got a Greyhound going through Birkenfield.
Greyhound used to go through Birkenfield. Wow. That's different.
Well, actually, not Birkenfield.
Vernonia.
Vernonia. It just dawned on me, no, it wouldn't have been Birkenfield. It would have been Vernonia. They would have taken me down there. Yeah, well, you realize that when I bought the house down at the coast, I took Greyhound down there.
Yeah, you did. That's right. That's right. I remember that.
That's right.
So you used to take Greyhound to down like on the weekend or whatever.
I'd go down on Friday night and stay over and come home on Sunday.
So would it take you all the way to Garibaldi?
Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, because they would go through Tillamook and then up to Seaside.
Oh, Make a loop.
That's a fun one. Were there any phrases that were popular when you were a teenager?
I have no idea.
Groovy? No. What was before groovy? I was thinking of the greasers and the socias.
That's just us,
Did they
like-
snap their fingers a lot and sing?
That's from
No.
his movies. Come
Oh,
on.
okay.
Nope.
Are you kidding me? My dad was a greaser. What did your parents feel, or how did your parents feel about the way you talked and what you wore?
Well, but we didn't talk that much different. Really. Not from my mom.
I think you came up in a time where people learn a lot from their parents.
Oh, I think.
Nowadays, they are trying to take that away, and everything comes from the state. So it's one of those. I could see somebody from college writing this, because it's like, yeah, what did you say? Although I know my father did not like it when I cursed.
It's saying you're cursing.
We can skip the next one that was talking about when you learned how to drive. Have you ever drove anything?
No,
Nope. A bike?
So I have a question though. So what made you decide not to do that?
because I have migraines. And when I have a migraine, I lose my sight vision and I get numb. Don't want me on my
No,
way.
you'd had to pull over and just not drive.
Yeah. Daddy, every once in a while, was so bad he had to do that.
Mhm.
And I just didn't want any, to start out with, I could take the bus any time, anywhere I wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
I might have to walk 3 or 4 blocks. Every day of my life that I worked, I walked at least from Vancouver to work, which was about 6 blocks. So, but that was just good for me.
Well, you should see over in Vancouver now.
I'll bet.
It's changed.
Well, take you over there one of these times.
Yeah.
Once the COVID lightens up, we'll go wine tasting. That's not a question. What was your graduation from high school like?
Just like any other graduation.
Was it at Roosevelt or did you guys go to?
No, it was downtown, I think.
Wow.
Where was it? Where the heck was it? I don't remember.
Was the auditorium there? Like where we had our graduation? How old is that place?
Where'd you have your graduation?
By the fountain?
Huh?
It's the.
I don't know what they call the building.
It's like on 3rd or 4th. It's
Oh, the auditorium?
the auditorium down there.
We
I don't
could
know.
have had ours
I
at
feel
the
like
auditorium.
that's pretty old. That might have been.
We could have had ours at the auditorium. I don't remember having it at Roosevelt though. I really don't.
I don't know where it is, but somewhere there's a picture of me standing in line for graduation, and Missy is in that picture.
Isn't that a kick in
It
the
is.
pants?
Because we had like one person between us.
Tony Shaffron.
Oh yeah, Tony's between us.
Shockner, Shaffron, Shell.
And Heidi must have been. Where was Heidi?
She's a shank, so SCHAN.
Was she before us? I don't know. Heidi was next then.
Heidi had to be there too. I
Maybe
thought
Heidi
that was
next
funny.
to me. Yeah.
One more questions. What, for this page,
No, we need to be done.
what dreams and goals did you have for your life when you graduated?
When I graduated, none. I don't think I did really. I don't know.
Was when you were going to
I
high school,
want-
was the purpose like to just get a high school diploma, or was it
I
like
was
to
to get
a-
my high school
career.
diploma, get a job, and make money. And make a living for myself so nobody else would have to pay for me, which I did.
Were girls ever considering going to college? Was that?
I never even considered going to college. Probably because my parents, it was so foreign to them. Larry probably wouldn't have gone to college, except that he was in the service and he went to high school. Where the hell did he go to high school? He went to North Catholic, I think. I'm pretty sure Larry went to North Catholic. I know I had a shit fit because I wanted him to go to Catholic school. Faye didn't go to college. But I got Faye a job at the hospital and in the pharmacy. So he was working pretty steady, and I don't know how come, possibly because it was better girls. I don't know how come he decided to get a job at the theater. I really don't know how come he decided to do that, other than not stay at the hospital.
Do you wish you would have stayed at the hospital? Like, it seems like that was a really great career and a really great job. Do you, looking back, do you regret leaving that, or?
No, I don't. I don't regret it because I was ready to terminate. I was tired of it.
How many years were you there doing that?
11.
Oh, okay.
That was quite a few years.
I didn't realize it was that long.
Pardon?
I didn't realize you were there that long.
Yeah.
Did you get a pension from? You didn't get a pension from
Are you kidding?
them?
They were just about as bad as working in a bank. The hospital makes very good now. The hospital wasn't that.
It wasn't the same as like what I think now. Like,
Oh heavens, no. I mean, let's face it, hellishly good money now. But I made good money, but not that good. I mean, let's face it. But when you figure, when I terminated, I was third in pay in women.
well, that's the other thing. Was there a women's pay scale and a men's pay scale?
Probably not what they voiced.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm sure it wasn't like a woman's, but there was one, right?
Well, back then,
Mm-hmm.
of course, there
what,
was.
What was good money back then? I mein, you were saying you were getting paid good. I mean, it wasn't great, but it was a good job. Got paid good. What was good money back then?
I really can't tell you,
Can't
other than
remember.
the fact that I know compared to the other, because I knew what everybody made.
I was gonna say because of your job. That's why I was asking you. Because of your job, you knew what was happening.
You knew you didn't want to do what she did over there.
Well, but I started, at the bottom, I started as file clerk in the accounts receivable. There's nobody lower than that.
Yeah. Well, that speaks to something.
Prove yourself.
And that's where I learned. That's where I learned the booking machine. And that's why the reason they needed a payroll clerk in the booking machine, because that's what they ran the payroll on, was the booking machine. So they needed someone that was trained for that machine. And the other two gals that were ahead of me, neither one of them wanted the job because one of them was in charge of the accounts receivable, and the other one was she just didn't want that
Responsibility.
much demand. So I got the chance, which was unusual because I was only 19.
Yeah, I think that's why I thought that you weren't there that long, just because I knew you were young when you were doing it.
Well, I was young, really.
Just proved yourself and you proved yourself and you did the job.
They only were late once. 11 years. Pretty good.
Alrighty.
Anyway, did we run out of